All right, just like that, I'm back with another portable Clint. Guys, behind every actor, there's a favorite casting director. And my favorite casting director is sitting right next to me. And here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Beth Holmes. Look, wow.
How are you going to get other casting people?
I don't care,
you
Beth.
Say the same thing
No, I'm not. But Beth, how can you not be my favorite casting director? You cast me in my first job. So,
really?
Yes.
Which one?
Army, with Peterman, with Fred Peterman.
Oh, wow.
Remember when it was in Peterman Dector?
Yeah.
You did it.
I did?
Yes. You were the very first one. You're the very first one who believed in me. I was working at the Actor Center on Ventura Boulevard. I was a gopher for that place. I did a lot of errands, and then they go upstairs and see if Beth Holmes, I believe, who was, I think Daniel Eskenazi was next to you, some other casting directors who are still around today.
Yeah.
But I just remember you, and you had me go on an errand for you. And then when I got back, you go, hey, Clint, you should go read for Heinz Ketchup.
Yes.
And I got put on a veil for Heinz Ketchup. And then I told my parents that I was on a veil for Heinz Ketchup. Within 2 weeks, everybody from Corpus was going, hey, Clint, I heard you booked a Heinz Ketchup commercial, which I did not book. But because I got put on a veil, they told everyone I booked it. So that's that on that. Do you remember anything about those days back then?
Oh, yeah. I remember the Actor Center.
Okay.
It was my first office space, and I worked with Scott Wissner.
Okay,
and
yes.
Monica Lee, who still works with me.
Yes.
And Cynthia Steele, my assistants at the time. And it was a lot of fun. It was the first place I had for my own office after I left Bankston Cone.
Bankston Cone. Okay, so now let's scoot all the way back. What brought you out to Los Angeles, California?
Let's see. I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
I was a student at the University of Michigan. I was an English major.
Okay.
But back in the day, you didn't have to be a theater major to audition for plays. Like now, they have to get all their theater majors on stage. Usually, it's a bigger, more popular major. So I was, loved acting and had a pretty good run at U of M.
So that's what you wanted to be, was an actress.
I thought so.
Okay.
I mean, I was Charity and Sweet Charity. I'm sure I was terrible. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I did it in high school too. So I didn't know what to do, and I just followed the graduating seniors. We all went to Chicago. We drove to Chicago and auditioned for MFA programs, for Masters of Fine Arts programs, and I was accepted to Cal Arts. And a lot of the teachers from Michigan were also going to Cal Arts to teach, California Institute of the Arts. And I went. And I was the youngest in this MFA program, and I was sort of clueless. Like, people had been out in the world acting, and they had their series of Chekhov and Shakespeare, and they were really, and I thought, you're not like sort of okay looking and a little bit funny, and you don't automatically work as an actor? I mean, I didn't know. So I fell out of love with acting in like 2 weeks, but something else happened.
Okay, what?
I promised my parents I would never come back. I would never stay in California. My dad was in the auto industry, got me this little car to drive up to Cal Arts. I got my graduate housing, and I was unloading my car in graduate housing, and this young man was riding his bike around me.
Oh boy, okay.
And he said, "You're coming to my party tonight."
What's his name, Jim?
Yeah.
Jim Holmes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I met my husband without my car even unloaded. We've been married like 34 years.
Okay, but now Beth, I'm going to stop you right there really quick, because you and I were neighbors. I don't know if you remember this. I lived on Curson, and I think you guys lived on Santa Bonita. Was
Sierra Bonita.
Sierra Bonita. Do you realize that?
This is crazy.
I know it. And I didn't even know that until Jim Holmes invited me over for some reason. I don't know why. And they're like, dude, that Beth is your wife, girlfriend. And my mind was blown because I was so nervous around casting directors, like I am right this second. I am nervous around Beth Holmes. Anyway, okay. So I remember you from the get-go when moving out here.
It's really flattering to hear that, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I mean, coming from I went to Cal Arts, and I knew I didn't want to be an actor, so it was sort of like living a lie there. But I got to understand acting better than anything else. An actor is better than anyone else. And fell into the job of casting. Well, I didn't fall into it. I pursued it, and I got really lucky. The guy that came to direct our showcase of scenes had been in casting, and I said, I don't want to do the showcase of scenes. I'd like to go into casting, and he had 2 friends, Paul Banks and
So
David
did
Kent.
anybody tell you about the casting world, or
No.
did you come up with it yourself?
It was in between my 2 years. I read Backstage West, which
Sure.
was called Dramalog
Sure.
at the time,
Oh,
an
I
interview
remember.
of,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, Jane Jenkins and Janet Hershenson, and a light bulb went off. I said, that's perfect. I love the arts. I love actors. I know acting. I was an English major. I know about storytelling and story arc, and how am I going to figure this out? And then Phil Killian, may he rest in peace, was hired to direct at Cal Arts, and he had been in casting. So he introduced me to these 2 friends, and I was hired the day I graduated. Literally, Libby Apple, the dean of Cal Arts, who I am so grateful for, handed me a Post-it at walking through commencement line. You're hired, you start tomorrow for
Wow.
$200 a week.
Beth, so it was meant to be for you to do this.
I feel very fortunate. Like it was absolutely the convergence of, a little bit of luck and a little bit of persistence and curiosity, and I feel very lucky.
Okay, so you cast some pretty interesting jobs at the very beginning. Love Boat being one of them.
Yeah.
But what was before Love Boat? Was there something else before Love Boat?
Well, we cast before Love Boat. They cast a film. I don't know what their first film was, but they got Love Boat pretty quickly. Oh, they cast no, that was after. But they cast a movie for, the big deal was HBO movie for a big comedy commercial director at the time.
Mark Story.
Yes.
Okay.
And
which would he would eventually be hiring you later down the road? Did you guys?
Well, his casting director at the time, Trudy Booth, Lorraine Booth's mom, was not well.
Okay.
And he just sort of
TLC Booth casting.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And he, through casting this movie where we had to find comedians, it wasn't a great project ultimately. He just took a shine to me.
Odd Jobs was it?
Yeah. And
Okay.
it had Rick Overton and
Which
Paul
I've had
Verhoeven.
Rick Overton on here.
Oh,
I
cool.
wish I would have brought that up, but go ahead.
Yeah. And Paul Reiser.
Oh yes.
And I learned one of my casting lessons on that job is it was written for high school students. Summer Jobs, it was the original title, and then it became Odd Jobs because the funnier comedians were much better actors. They just had more experience.
Oh wow, okay.
And so pretty soon he cast 24 and 25-year-olds, and they changed it to Odd Jobs. And then the script had to keep shifting, and it's a lesson about, the writing. You got to sort of stay true to the writing. You can't, in the process, be shifting it so much while you're in production.
Right.
That's what happened.
Okay, so you're doing that. You're doing Love Boat, which you've had to see so many great character actors come through your doors.
Oh my gosh, I had to measure Lorenzo Lamas's feet, and I was doing the contracts for all these celebrities. Paul and David and the associates, Dee Dee Bradley and Joanne Kohler would be doing lists, and then
Wait, Dee Dee Bradley was also a cast director, right?
Yeah.
How do I know? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. She's
Okay.
cast Switched at Birth and
Right.
Veronica Mars
Right.
and a lot of great things. She's a dear friend, and then we would get to do these contracts for not only current celebrities, but from the back in the
Yes.
day,
Which are the funnest ones in my book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And one of my best friends, Gary Oberst, who's no longer with us, was on that show. We used to laugh our asses off. And it was the last 2 years of the Love Boat where they had Love Boat mermaids, Love Boat dancers. I used to run to Daily Swash. I used to say we sank the Love Boat. And it was big. It felt like big Hollywood, but what it did was train me. I learned way before commercials on the theatrical contract. And I learned how to negotiate.
Okay.
And they were great bosses, Paul and David, because Paul was super chill, and any screw up you made, he was like, "You were going to fix it, don't worry." And David taught me a great lesson
What's
to always
that?
know in production, and maybe any other job. Assume that every move you make is a fuck up. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Because it's too late now. And then assume that any move you make is a fuck up, and then you'll never make a mistake.
Wow.
So it trained me, because in production, when you make a little mistake, people get really upset.
They do, don't they? I don't know why, but they do, big time.
Because they think they're, curing cancer, and
Yeah, no,
or
you're right.
something,
You're
and
right.
it's a lot of money at stake. That's
It
the
is.
truth, yeah.
Beth, you do Love Boat. When do you start saying, "Hey, I can do my own thing"?
Because we took over Mark's Commercials, and really I did. Oh, what happened with Mark's Commercials, back in those days, the talent, the actors with commercial agents were pretty cookie cutter. They were white, maybe a few ethnic people, and they were very safe looking, and they didn't have a lot of character to them. And Mark was doing the commercials for Cliff Freeman who wrote Clara Peller, Where's the Beef? And,
Okay, yeah.
and I had just graduated out in Santa Clarita in Cal Arts, which was like the sticks. So there was Cal Arts and then a couple of diners, Tiny Nailers, and
Yes.
I thought, if Monica and I throw a camera in a backpack and go out to their Elks Club Lodge turtle races and bingo dances, we're gonna find more Clara Pellers and more. And so I sort of started people do location casting, but I sort of had the first idea in that campaign to go outside of the agent world and find real people for commercials.
Well, I'm going to say that you were the one who invented it.
I think maybe.
Let's just go with it. Let's go with it.
Okay.
Congratulations on inventing that.
Now, it became very cost prohibitive eventually.
Sure.
Cliff Freeman, they were such a great creative team to work for. We laughed our asses off, and we just knew funnier people were somewhere under a rock, somewhere in California. And until we were all laughing our asses off for Wendy's, Hamburger A, Hamburger B, and Jack in the Box, we just kept going. And eventually they were like, our casting bill, it was cost prohibitive.
Right.
Because you couldn't just do one day in the studio, see 80 people and pick. They were like, God, can you go somewhere else? And so...
Wait, so Beth, hang on. So you're telling me did you cast the original Wendy's commercial, Where's the Beef?
Not Where's the Beef. That was done in Chicago.
Okay.
But after that...
But was that Mark's story, though?
No, that was Suttlemeyer.
Okay.
And then, I'm not sure how Mark started with them, but then he had a long run with Wendy's Hamburger A, Hamburger B. Which would you choose?
Oh, yes.
And have a face that
Yes.
sort of looked like yours,
Right.
not an actor, just with a funny voice. And Jeff Gorman then started doing those, and I cast for both those guys.
Jeff Gorman, you cast forever with that guy.
Yeah, for a very long time, and Gary Johns too.
Right.
They actually
Then weren't they together? Gary Johns?
Johns
Yes.
and Gorman. They
Johns
came
and
from the
Gorman.
ad world. They actually signed, and their other partner Sam Shapiro signed, co-signed a loan for me to buy for my first equipment for my first studio.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember Gary Johns. What's his name? Johns.
Yeah, Gary Johns.
I went in I had a callback with them, and you were in the room. I always get nervous when you're in the room when I'm at my callback. I don't know why, Beth, but I do. I get extra nervous. And he wanted me to do a flip. And he goes, Clint, can you do a flip? I go, yes. He goes, well, I need you to sign off so we don't get sued.
Oh,
and it scared me so much that I said, I better not, because I've never had to sign something before I did something. And I've never done a flip before, so I'm glad I didn't.
It's really good because we've been in trouble before where a guy said he could drive and they showed up on the set and he couldn't drive. He had a very funny guy. He had really, really bad dyslexia. So we had a driver drive him to all his auditions, and he was a New Yorker, so he didn't, and went 6 a.m. in the set, I got a screaming phone call that he didn't know how to drive. And the whole audition was like, okay, you're driving, it was for fruit drink, and the cop pulls you over. Okay, and we would do that in the audition, would pull him over, roll the window down, and then you drive away. And I thought, at what point did he think he wasn't gonna have to drive on set?
Beth, I bet you did. How many times have you gotten phone calls for stuff like that? People saying things or situations where actors aren't working out. Like, how many frantic phone calls have you got?
Very few.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know, besides that one, anything else that stands out to you?
Once in a while, they'll say he was sort of difficult. Or once in a while, if it's a kid's shoot, they'll say this one little kid was sort of difficult and the mom was sort of difficult.
The mom was difficult who had the son on this as the actor?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
stage mom, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting. Kids' agents are really nice people. They're all really lovely. And agents sometimes can be bristly. And I think it's because they have parents to deal with, and they sort of act as protectors of kids. They're usually really sweet. One time we had on a Little Caesars Pizza, a kid who became a successful actor for a long time. His mom was really upset because she thought her kid was the first choice kid and it was the backup kid.
Because they always hire 2 kids, right? When they do a job, just in case one's not working out on set?
Yeah, for 5 and up. Oh, I had one recently, so I cast the Nespresso commercials.
Okay,
Commercials.
yeah. Do you cast all those?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great commercials.
They're really fun. Yeah. Really nice people. Grant directs them, and he's great to work for. And recently, on a big one that aired already, where he's like in a medieval court and brings the head of the dragon. they invited me to visit set, and while I was visiting set, there's so much NDI on those sets.
Sure.
Extras have to sign, everyone has to sign them. You can't take it. An extra took a picture on the set.
Oh.
And the producer, Carton, thought it would be really funny if I yelled at the actor, even though he was an extra, because I was on set.
Yes.
And he said, watch this. I'm going to make the casting director yell at him. And it's going to be really scare the crap out of him. And I was like, wait a minute. I want to be a mean casting director. So he said, I don't want to fire him, or you can fire him if you want to. I just want to scare him. So I took the actor in a room, who's also an actor and an extra.
Okay, all right.
And I just said, so what were you thinking? Like, what'd you do?
I bet he was,
And he said, I'm really sorry. My wife just really likes sets. And I thought,
do you know his name?
Somewhere. I didn't hire him. He was an extra, so I know which agent he's with, and he felt so embarrassed.
I bet.
And I said, I don't want to fire you, but let's just pretend you're really upset when we walk out of the door.
Oh, okay. So you kind of flipped it back on the director.
Oh, yeah. And I walked down and was like, yeah,
nice,
he's
Beth.
pretty upset.
See,
well, that was awkward.
Oh, Beth. Okay, that's why people love you, because you have the actor's back.
Yeah,
but you
I'm
also,
married to an actor.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of got way off sidetrack there. You start your own company, Beth Holmes Casting. Where was your first office again?
I started it because I was doing so many commercials, and I wanted to, be independent there.
All right, I'm trying to figure out your first office, because I went to so many of your offices, which I know. I get Actor Center.
It was Actor Center, then the one above Trashy Lingerie across from
Yes,
Baker Nisbet.
yes.
Yes, folks love to visit Trashy Lingerie when in a break on casting. And then they loved that. Like, what was it, like $1 to get in?
Yeah, you had to pay $1.
And
I wouldn't know that, but you had to pay $1. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
And then I was on Ventura Boulevard down that it was a long driveway.
Yes, which was next door to Zydeco Studios.
Yes.
Eventually,
Yes.
yes.
And they didn't take my sign off for years and years, people would say. But it was fun because we had a long driveway and my office overlooked the driveway. So like certain time of year, like September, where it's really hot in Los Angeles, we'd be casting Christmas spots. We would want the Santa Clauses in their boxer shorts, but their Santa up there walking into the thing. Yeah, we could see who was coming.
Okay, let's talk about, this is pull over for a sec, talk about Jim Holmes, your husband, for 2 seconds, okay?
Sure.
What was it like, what were people going, oh, I bet Jim books a lot because his wife is a casting director? We all know that you can only do so much, but was that an issue? Tell me a little bit about that, because Jim is one of the most talented dudes that I know. I love him. He's one of the biggest bookers that I ever knew in this business.
Yeah.
When he was big, we all had moments, but he had a giant moment.
Giant.
And he was the dude.
In advertising, for sure.
Yeah.
The luck that happened for his career is he was in LA at the time as a young actor, where the everyman look was still popular to be the lead of commercials, the Tom Hanks look. But he is so sarcastic and irreverent and rude in his acting. So he didn't treat his auditions as precious. And he also, in my opinion, has great timing, comedic timing, which you can't really teach. So he had this great run that was independent of me, and that's what I think has been so wonderful.
Yep.
He's never been, he gives me great business advice, and he's the controller of my business. He's got really smart business sense, but he also is so self-reliant as an actor. He's a professor at Loyola Marymount University, and he's a vice chair of the Kennedy Center College Theater Festival, adjudicating new plays. And the playwriting program. So he's kept himself engaged enough. But it was a weird shift where I wasn't really a good actress at Cal Arts and he was the star, and then I went like that in casting and he was at the same main level. But we've always navigated that. He'll say all the time, do you have anything in that movie for me? And I'll say, no, I don't. What's for dinner? Or I'll say, this negotiation is terrifying me. Let me just run these. Or, best of all, he reads scripts and he'll tell me where there's a problem in the script. And once or twice with my newer directors, he'll come in and we'll have a meeting, and because he understands script analysis so well, and we'll talk about things that can shift to. So it's really been a partnership that way.
Awesome. He's awesome, dude. I actually shot some
Thank you.
Tostitos commercials with him.
Yes.
That was a great campaign for him.
Do you remember that one that we did? Oh, you're talking about Really Not Really?
Yes. It was Chris
those were
Elliott.
great,
Chris
yeah.
Elliott was really, and then Jim would go, no, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
he
a
was
great
awesome.
run
That
for
was a
him.
great one.
He also had he was the voice of Radio Shack for years.
Yes, he was.
And remember the horrible 6-month actor strike?
Yes.
Well, Terry Hatcher and Howie Long were the celebrities in those commercials, so they signed the interim agreement right at
Beautiful.
the get-go.
Okay, well, wait. One last thing about Jim, and then we'll move on back to you. He did something which I actually ate today called Corn Dog Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you cast that for him, by the way?
No.
How's that he did a film and he didn't hire you as a casting
I wasn't
director?
I wasn't a theatrical casting director
Really?
at the time.
Oh, well, but you were a commercial cast.
Someone cast.
Okay, so at that time back then, if you were a commercial cast director, you don't really cast theatrical.
No.
Okay, and so now we're about to get to you. So when did you think you started your own office at the Actors Center? That would have to be
88.
like 88. And that took you all the way to what year doing commercials? I know you still do, but you've now doing theatrical stuff.
Yeah. So what happened was when the economy shifted, the strike shifted, things started happening. Used to be where the sort of B-level comedy directors always eventually became A comedy directors, and that stopped. That wasn't really, they always weren't and then work became thinner, and the A guys who were 10 years or so older than me started not getting work and trying to and it worried me.
Yeah.
So about 10 years ago, it's exactly 10 years ago, as Lindsay reminds me, she's been with me 10 years. I had a notion. I said, I know theatrical casting, and Lorraine Mayfield, who I consider a friend, we used to both do callbacks over at Ava's place at Village.
Sure, yeah.
And David Fincher always used Lorraine for anything. And
Still does, I believe.
Still does. And I thought that's a great model, because it wasn't that I had to learn the contracts or how it was done. I worked on the theatrical desk for 3 or 4 years, and I used her as a model in my commercial callbacks. And I would put out there to my directors, do you want to do something, Lindsay? And so what happened is when I made the decision to do it, and commercials were sort of slowing down, Lindsay, my partner's, Bellick Lieber's resume just came through my inbox. And she had been an intern at Ulrich Dawson Kritzer, and I interviewed her and I said, listen, we mostly do commercials, but I want to build this other side. And she said, I'm totally in.
Awesome.
And it came, our first thing was a little film for the Make-A-Wish Foundation for Andre Gordon. And then I started putting the word out. Well, I cast commercials for Ted Melfi.
Okay.
Ted Melfi did St. Vincent, Hidden Figures.
That was a good one for your name to be associated with.
Well,
That's the Bill Murray.
he
great
got
film.
the Bill Murray thing because he was sharing office space with Fred Roos, who had Bill Murray's 800 number. And
Do you know? I mean, I don't want it, but do you know the 800 number to Bill Murray?
No.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just
He
curious.
doesn't have an 8. He works just with a lawyer.
I thought he really does have an 800 number. Bill Murray.
He does an 800 number and a lawyer.
Okay.
And so Ted, and it was written up in the LA Times, just kept calling the number, and he finally called back. And it's a really cool story where he finally he said, mail me the script, bye. And Ted was like, okay. And then he called back and said, it's the first script I haven't thrown in the fire in 5 years. I'm sort of interested in doing it, bye. Ted was like, he said, can you meet me in New York? And Ted said, I know I'm at AT&T callbacks. I can't. Bye. And long story short, because Bill Murray said he'd do it, Harvey Weinstein took them. St. Vincent was originally St. Vincent of Van Nuys, but Harvey Weinstein liked things shot in New York. And
I like St. Vincent of Van Nuys. That's a pretty good name. Yeah,
Ted's
okay.
an amazing writer. And for whatever reason, their casting director in New York, they just weren't finding the kid. And Ted said, it's nutty that we're not looking for this little boy in LA. And he stood up for me and said, I want my person in LA looking for this little boy. And through that film, we met Fred Roos, who was also a producer on the film. And Fred gave us a bunch of other indie movies. And he's an icon. He's, cast American Graffiti, and he works on all of Coppola's stuff and produces all of Sofia Coppola's stuff. And we met people through him, and we just wrapped one. I mean, it builds slowly, And part of the reason I didn't want to do theatrical casting, the reason I liked commercials is when you're a really, really hot, busy commercial casting director. You have 6 or 8 different production companies, and they're all working. One's overlapping the other. One just finished callback, and you get boards for another.
Right.
It's not great for vacation time.
Okay.
Because if they don't use you, they'll find someone else. And I was always worried in theatrically where you'd have these be like an actor or a writer.
Yeah.
You'd finish a project, you'd be heartbroken.
Yes.
And then you'd have to go find your next.
Yeah.
Unless you're on a TV show. And Dee Dee Bradley, love of my life, shared office space with me for a while, and the TV show is a great salary and guarantee, but they don't always treat casting really well.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's like they I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it's 30 executives who are business people, but they don't defer to casting for their opinions a lot, and they're sort of a cog in the wheel, and or a spoke in the wheel, I should say, and not really part of the creative engine. That may not be true.
What's the difference between a cog and a spoke?
Wouldn't a cog be something that would muddy the works, and a spoke helps things run.
Okay, all right. That's sounds
See,
good.
Jim would correct me right now. 100%. Or my daughters. So anyway, the indie films I love because we are on a journey with these director writers. The one we just wrapped is called India Sweets and Spices, and this is not through my commercial world. This is financed by SKE Films and Madison Wills, who did Crazy Rich Asians.
Right. Wow, that's a great people to come
and the reason
yes.
we got hired, the writer-director Geeta Malik is a close friend of Lindsay's, my partner. And she won a screenwriting award, which got her an agent, which got her an executive producer who took it to SKE. And from doing a reading of it, that's the other thing I do is I tell people, you have a script, let's do a reading of it out loud. I'll get you better actors than you can get.
Awesome.
And you can hear your words out loud. And we had done that for Geeta, and then it was financed by not just anybody. And it was a great experience. It's an East Indian in America, mother-daughter coming of age story.
Which is just gigantic right now. I mean, that's
37 out of 40 principals East Indian to
awesome.
shoot in Atlanta.
Great.
It was tricky. And we got the 2 lead young men out of London, and we were sweating the visa approval to the 11th hour, and it was great. And so now we're working on a little one.
Now, Beth, what's more fulfilling to me as an actor? If I go shoot a commercial, I love shooting commercials, but in my mind, I'm like, man, that's just a commercial. Like, it's kind of fleeting really quickly.
Yeah.
It goes away.
Yeah.
A movie, TV, you're like, yeah, because that's going to be around for a while. What's more fulfilling for you? Like, is it movies?
It's more fulfilling creatively almost all the time if you like the story. I mean, we've cast things where we think, I don't know, this isn't going to be, whatever, the next Silver Linings Playbook, a movie that I love, but it's building my career. And the camaraderie with the writer-director is so close. It's like doing a play. Like you have a little family, and you're talking all the time, and you're laughing all the time. But commercials can be financially more rewarding, and I've always been lucky I'm known for comedy.
Yes, you are.
So to get in a room with guys like you and laugh our asses off for a couple days, and we know we're not curing cancer. We know we're about advertising, which has its positive and negative ethical implications, maybe, where the movies are really trying to, like the movie we're doing right now, Penciltown, is really trying to affect a social impact about small factories in America. And they shot the exteriors at this cool pencil factory in Pennsylvania, and it's heartbreaking but beautiful. So that's where advertising doesn't hold a candle. But advertising, I have a really fun job.
Yeah.
Casting is super fun as long as there's no oops.
What's an oops? Give me an oops example.
You're on a veil, Clint's on a veil, they're the favorite, they really like nobody else as much in callbacks, and your theatrical agent forgot to tell your commercial agent that you're also on hold for Stranger Things, which of course you're going to do.
Yeah.
And they think, this is a big deal for the Commercial Casting Directors Association. They think they should have known. At callbacks, they should have known even that you had a callback for that. And I explained to my fellow commercial casting directors, actors, when they walk out of a callback, they don't want to think about it too much. They don't want to curse it.
Right,
You
exactly.
better tell that commercial director I went on 5 last week, but they all better know that I might book Stranger Things. You don't know.
So Beth, what happens to me if I did book Stranger Things and I took that over you? Are you mad at me or are you mad at my agent?
It depends on the casting director. We all.
Oh, no, I'm asking you though.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not mad at you at all. I'm married to an actor.
Okay.
And my part of casting is negotiating and smooth. Part of any job in production is problem solving.
Yeah.
Those of us who do well in production and enjoy it have to not be upset. So here's a. Can I tell you a little bit of a sad story that happened?
Please.
In El Camino Christmas, a movie I cast, Ted was the executive producer.
El
Ted
Camino
Melvin.
Christmas just came out like last year, right?
Christmas,
yes.
yeah,
I
for
saw
Netflix.
billboards for
yeah,
it, yes.
Yeah. And we had a great cast, and there's the role of a sheriff in it who was played by Kurtwood Smith, but the original cast was Powers Booth, who's deceased.
Yeah, sure.
And Powers came to the table reading, and
Did he look like he was about to be deceased when you saw him?
he didn't look like he was in his 60s. I remember I went up to him and said, which is unusual for me because I usually it's a table reading, just be a good soldier.
Sure.
Don't draw attention to yourself. But I said, my husband actually is so excited you're here and we follow you. You're just, and I went home and I said, Jim, his skin looked like an older person. That was on a Thursday and we were supposed to start shooting on a Monday, and Ted called me on Saturday night and said he drove from the table reading to the hospital and he had advanced cancer and we didn't know.
Okay.
And Ted was trying to, replace it with like celebrities that he knew and was getting a little frustrated. And I said, I just have an idea. Do you remember Kurtwood Smith? And I had seen him at a diner a few months ago. And I was out there with my dad, and Jim and I were like, that's Kurtwood Smith. We think he's hilarious. And Kurtwood's manager is his son-in-law, and we got him in that movie. And he was really one of the best things of the movie. Here's the amazing part of that story. Powers Booth, I believe, it's not reverse, correct me if I'm wrong, sponsored Kurtwood into the American Academy
Wow.
about 30 years previous to that.
That's something else right there, Beth.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So when that sort of stuff happens, I have a like, oh crap, and then I get all excited about, I'm terribly sad, terribly sad, but the problem solving part, the adrenaline kicks in of, here's my choices, A, B, C, what's the route to take? Whose approval do I need? Am I setting myself up for success to solve this problem? And again, we're not dealing with a nuclear bomb here.
Right.
We're gonna solve it somehow. And I wanna help everyone feel that we can do this and it's gonna be great.
If you didn't see Kurtwood Smith at the diner, would you have remembered him for this part?
He was definitely on our list. Lindsay and I, we do celebrity lists. Yes, but he came to it definitely was a circumstance thing.
Okay, really quick, before I ask you your big question, where have you found talents other than at auditions before? I know you're doing real casting, but I'm talking about when you. No, I know, but when you're out and about, like at a grocery store, ice cream shop, do you know?
Well, there's a role in the movie we're casting now for an older Gramps who's supposed to be a vet and have an amputee, and we couldn't find anyone who has a real amputee, and we'd love to find someone with a disability, but anyway, in the airport, I just came back from Portland where my daughters live. There was a guy standing at luggage or in a wheelchair without a knee, and I was like, you know what, Beth, that's not appropriate. But I will say anywhere. I've had waitresses and waiters that I've brought in the next day for stuff. I love going to talk to universities because I know that they're trained actors in a certain way. But because of all the self-tape situation now, because of the internet, we have cast several films for young leads all over the world.
Okay.
Like Rish Shaw and Vid Sapru are the leads in India Sweets and Spices, and they're just graduated from London Conservatory. And when we didn't know that they were going to get approved by the government, the visas, I called as many, up to 50 theater programs in the country as I could, saying, do you have East Indian leading men? I knew, because I come from academia in that way, I knew like which professor was not an adjunct who would be there full time, who had been there a long time, and they would answer me right away. They were fabulous. So we saw young men from Northwestern, people from Georgia, people from New Mexico. Like wherever there was somebody, got a really funny response from Yale.
What was that response?
Thank you so much for reaching out. This sounds like a great project. We've had Chinese leading men, this leading man. Unfortunately, we're ashamed to say we've never had an East Indian. We need to look into that.
Okay.
That was great.
Beth, I'm not telling you your business, but I think you should have gone up to that guy at the airport.
He didn't look super well.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
then
so
I didn't
there
hear
was
that part.
too.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
yeah.
mean,
Okay.
when you're in casting a long time,
Yeah,
and
no,
you
you
assess
see,
things,
yeah, you're
it's
right.
not just
Okay.
the obvious. Then you go,
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know about the not looking well part.
yeah. But it did cross my mind.
Okay, Beth, what's the thing you want right now? What's the number one thing? What do you want to accomplish now? I know you want to continue working, but what's your goal these days?
That career.
Yes,
Besides my
all career.
kids
This is
having
all
healthy
career. Yes,
relationships
exactly.
and all that
Amen
stuff.
to that.
I want Lindsay and I want to continue what we had with El Camino and Crazy Rich Asians, and have it people not be able to, I'm now in the CSA, but not just with people who know us personally, who can trust us and know how talented we are, which
Yeah.
I guess I have to say. But we want to continue in that, not just bigger budget at quality filmmaking movies. And so our reputation succeeds itself.
Okay.
Not just the pounding the pavement
Yes,
part
yes,
of it.
yes.
That's the honest truth.
What happens if you get a postcard from an actor? Do you look at it and throw it away? Do you even look at them?
I look at every one. And even though we work out of Envision Studios
Yes,
right
this
now.
is great.
That's where I
Thanks to
cast my
Steve.
theatricals.
What's Steve's last name?
Home, no relation.
Really?
But owned by Beth Melsky, who I'm friends with. She's a New York casting director, who's super talented and amazing, and thank you. What was your question?
Well, no, I just want to.
Postcards.
I just want an actor.
Box.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a PO box now that's on the website, and I go through every single one.
You do?
Oh yeah,
'Cause that's my-
I have to. It's like bothers my heart if I don't.
Because that's what when it's slow for me, I send out postcards, and like people go, dude, people don't look at postcards. I go, that's exactly. They go, people don't send postcards anymore, and I'm like, that's the reason why I send them, because no one does it anymore.
Well, they do, but I'll tell you what, they're still packaging. People still do, like my post office guy, Shervin. Shout out to Shervin, the nicest guy. He cracks up when an actor sends something that's over packaged and a waste of materials and stuff like that. I was on a panel recently where the casting director did not look at postcards or bother, and I said, well, I do. I think it's going to be on this show next week, and I think even if I don't watch that episode, I'm like, that's great to know. So it's in the forefront. I think it's great.
Any other tricks for us actors to know about casting directors? Anything something that sticks out to you?
Yes. Here's one thing I will tell you.
Please.
Is that when people are rude to you in any audition room, they don't realize their affect on you. Advertising agencies, producers, directors, other people who don't look up or don't say hi when you say hi, don't realize that even in the casting room, it's like a theater relationship, audience, performer.
Yes,
you have a reciprocal relationship, and they don't know it. The casting director is your advocate, and they want you to look good because then it justifies why I was hired.
Right,
we
right.
want them to have, I can't decide who to play the great Texan, whatever, rodeo manager guy, because they want to have a lot of choices, and then it's like, yeah, it's because I'm so good. I really know who's good out there. That's a quality problem. So casting directors want them to have a hard time deciding, but while we can't control their behavior in the room, they don't even realize their affect on you. So even though you might walk out and go, oh, that was shitty, they didn't even look up, I know they didn't even like me. It's like, no, they're just idiots.
Right.
Know.
Yeah.
This movie I'm casting now, Penciltown, we just had our callbacks with them, and this director, Jay Silverman, who I hadn't worked with before, every actor that came in, he said, you did such a great job on your self-tape. I was like, that's awesome. It's awesome, and we had young actors on the autism spectrum, and we're casting an actor on the autism to play that, and everybody felt so good. Unfortunately, they all thought they got the role.
Well, I know, but I'd rather feel that way than the guy not even looking up at me, going home feeling like I should quit the whole thing.
And I don't know that that's going to ever change, because they think they're in a place of power, and you're the actor, and they're worried you're going to be needy or whatever they're anxious about.
Yeah.
they don't realize it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all I can do is show by example and be friendly when you come in the room and friendly when you leave the room. But it's very unusual that it's bad in advertising.
Off book or not off book when people come in to
Always
refer?
off book.
Always off book, right?
Always.
Why?
100%.
Why?
Because you're not really acting yet if you got a script in hand. Only when you're memorized, you start to use like simplistic terms, embody and be free and realize your own comic timing, or look at the actor who's with you, or be able to sense the room, be able to come up with an improv. When you're still on script, you're never a free performer.
Last question. Well, one of the second to last questions. If I'm reading a scene with you and I forget a word, but I just keep going, do I go home hating myself because I forgot to say a word?
Never. No.
Okay.
Also, if you're an intuitive actor, which most actors are intuitive, you can read the room and read. If it's a casting associate, you could say, let's do that one more time. You can always ask to do it one more time.
And you don't mind asking one more time?
Not me. I don't think, most people don't. Most people want you to, like I said, if you look good, we look good.
Beth, is there one last piece of advice that you could give everybody out there who's listening, either a casting director or just an actor?
Yeah, my best piece of advice, not my best piece of advice, my healthiest piece of advice is to have your community, have your people.
Yeah.
Like, you're from my past, and we've gone back.
Sure.
When I saw that you did this and you asked me, I was like 100%. I would never say no. And now in the theatrical world, even though it's a little tricky to build that, I don't know. But have your people outside the business who sustain you. Our best friends go to every show that Jim directs. The wife falls asleep, the husband has no idea what's going on, and they show up for everything. There are people. You got to have your people to make, and then it doesn't seem as important what we're doing here.
Right. And no, you're absolutely right. My daughter, for some reason, she goes, "Hey, Clint, ask her," and she wasn't even paying attention. Ask her what her favorite cereal is. So that's my question to you. Do you have a favorite cereal? If you don't, no big deal.
So cute, Ellie. My favorite cereal. I don't know. I can only think of my favorite cereal when I was a kid.
Okay, what's that?
I guess it would have to be Captain Crunch.
Oh, I'm a Captain Crunch fan. All right, Beth. Listen, thank you so much for doing this.
You're so...
Beth, come here.
I gotta go in the hat?
Oh, yeah, I got a hat. But let me tell you something, Beth. As my wife even knows, I have a very public crush on Beth Holmes since day one. Jim, you know it. Okay, all right, Beth Holmes. One last thing. Do me a favor and say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.